Yo, this is it. I'm Mr. Fate, and you're listening to Attacking the Beats on IllMuzik.com. Another 5 beats, another 5 reviews as usual. And before I get into it, though, there's the Warzone beat battle happening June 2nd and 3rd. That's this weekend, Friday, Saturday. Friday, you sign up, and Saturday, you start battling. 16 members battling to the death. No, just kidding. Just submit your beats, 4 rounds, and try to do your opponent. And at the end, there's just one standing above the rest with bloody meaty cables and RCA cables lying around. NPCs, APCs, ABC? No, whatever. But lots of hardware and software just lying around and stuff, and maybe a few CDs thrown in there and some vinyl, I guess. But so Warzone, so check it out. Make sure you go to the site and go to IllMuzik.com. Go to the beat battles, then to the Warzone. You'll see what's happening, and we'll set it off. But first, let's get into the Attack of the Beats. First up, we've got Beautiful Noise with Interlude 14. Let's check it out.
You're certainly making a beautiful noise.
Alright. Okay, so that was Beautiful Noise with Interlude 14. Alright, so for this beat, it's funny because I'm going to go against what I usually recommend, and in this case, I'm going to recommend that you don't use a bass line, or at least the bass line that you're using, because the beat sounded good at the beginning. I like the drums. The drums are really good. They're on point. And the guitar, it sounds like a sampled guitar. But what I would recommend is you take that bass line out. Either don't use it at all, just leave it dry, or wherever you got that sample from the guitar, if you could find some other piece of music that's around that guitar and use that as the bass line. Have a low pass filter, use that, because that's what I usually do sometimes when I have when I'm playing around with some samples. Sometimes it's like I just can't get a nice bass line going with the sample. And it shouldn't be that way, it should match up, but sometimes it just doesn't, right? So if I'm using a certain sample and I don't want to use a traditional bass line, like let's say from a VST, for example, then I'll just use the sample itself, copy it, put a low pass, whatever, or use another part of the sample of that song that I sampled, whatever, and use that as the bass line. And then there's the rare case where I just don't even put a bass line. So in your case, because of the type of beat it is, just this looping guitar, it just, it kind of sounds like an interlude anyway, right? Because that's what you're calling it. So I wouldn't even worry about a bass line, really. And if you want to fill out the low end a little bit, well then, thicken up the kick a bit. Maybe even add just a bit of an 808 every so often, that'll fill out the low end. Because the bass line, I don't think you really need that in this scenario, and definitely keep this as an interlude because the guitar does get repetitive. So I would take the guitar out here and there, but since it's an interlude, yeah, you could leave it, but it does get a little repetitive. So think about changing up the guitar a bit somehow. And like I said, if you have the sample, if you're able to take some of the sample and use it as a bass line, then maybe then you could take out the guitar at certain parts, and just have that bassline part playing and stuff, so, but give that a shot because I don't think the bassline really works in this scenario. So, but I like it though. Just needs a little tweaking. All right, so next up we got Grind Stars with Selfies. Let's check it out. All right. Okay, so that was Grind Stars with Selfies. Now, see, with this one, it's one of those beats where it just sounds like it has a lot of potential, and it just needs to be reworked in a few places. So number one is I really like the low end. It's just very, very heavy, very deep. So just try to keep that in check. Bring the volume down. Maybe add some compression or something just to squash it down just a bit because it's very, very heavy in the mix. But I do like the sound of it though. It's very nice. And drums are dope and everything. It's just that you have that synthy horn, and that's what took it away from me, that whole thing, because a lot of times when you're using a synth, especially for horns, they're very cheesy, and that's why whenever I sample horns, I just try to sample, or I should say, whenever I try to use a horn, I try to sample a horn, especially from like a jazz record or something, because it's real, it's authentic. Because it's very hard to find a nice sounding synth horn. It really is, So what you have there with that horn stuff, you could really just replace it with something else, like some kind of synth. Just some standard synth, replace that, and I think it would sound a lot better instead of the horn, because it just sounded kind of cheesy. So, and then you have that little doop, that little sound there. That's cool. I like that because you bring it in, you have the camera snapping and stuff. So those two sounds right there, like it just added some nice ambiance right to the mix. So that was really good. I like that. But mainly it's just, like I said, the bass line, just to fix it a bit, very, very heavy, and then just replace that horn with some kind of, like, something that just sounds a lot better, something that sounds cleaner and more authentic. It could be a horn, or it could be just a synth, or strings, whatever, but just something that's other than that, because it just sounds kind of cheesy, you know. So and I think it's the same thing for a lot of people, right? They just find it's hard to find a good horn sound, you know, when you're talking about plugins and all that stuff. So, but you know, if all else fails, you really want it, then get a sampled horn, just a little horn part that you can find from a jazz record or something, and you can use that over and over, man. Just put some effects on that, and you can use that a million times. So, but yeah, that's the main thing right there. But it's a nice beat, though. I do like it, especially at low end. It's really dope. Just keep it under control. All right, so next up we got Impulse by Metal 4. Let's check it out. All right. Okay, so that was Metal 4 with Impulse. All right, so for this one, number one is the bass, man. You got to keep that under control. It's really heavy, really loud. So my meter was definitely in the red on that one. So you got to keep that in check. But it did sound good, the pattern you had and all that. Just the sound itself, very, very heavy. And the main instrument, of course, was those strings, those fast strings and all that. I like that. I mean, that sounds really good. You know, just the way you build it up and all that. But the main thing I took away from it was the bass. It was just very, very loud and all that. And the other thing too was the snare, because you have the hand clap snare, okay, throughout, and that was good. That was on point. And I think you should use it all the way through, because the other snare, it was very dry and clean. That's fine or whatever. But I thought it sounded like it sounds more like an 808 snare, right? That's what it kind of sounds like, and that's okay. But I just didn't like it in this scenario, in this mix. So I like the other snare you have with the clap on it. So maybe that was the 808 with the clap. I don't know. But I did like the sound of that better. So if you could try to use that all the way throughout instead of just that 808 snare, because I don't know, it just didn't fit well, I find, you know. But yeah, but anyway, but other than that, it was good. But it was only a minute long, the beat, so I wanted to hear more. I wanted to see if you could transition to something else, like try to change it up somewhat. But for what it is, yeah, I like it. But it's just the bass got to get that under control, and then the snare. That's the thing. I would just remove that 808 snare and use that other one all the way throughout, and then it would be a lot better. Trust me. All right. So next up, we've got how do we pronounce this? Sorab S with Plug 88. Let's check it out. All right. Okay, so that was So Rabes with Plug 88. All right, so on this one, I like the beginning because it sounds like, we got that nice low end with the keys. It sounds like something from like a cheesy 80s slasher movie or something. I love those movies, So, but it sounded like that, so it was really cool. But then when the drums came in, I was a little disappointed because they sounded kind of light compared to the music. I wanted to hear some drums that were harder, and especially the snare, because the snare was kind of just dry. It was just there, whatever. And with the type of sound you have in this beat, you could definitely add some reverb to that snare, and that would really fill out the space. So try doing that, number one, on the snare. But then when you bring in the 808, man, that was loud. That shit was loud. I had to turn my volume down. That shit was loud. So, but yeah, I wouldn't even try to do anything with the 808. I would just get rid of it because you already have that low end. You've got that low end part with the synth, so you don't even need the bass. And if you are going to use it, yeah, but you got to use it very minimal because it's just so heavy with that 808 plus that low end already. So I wouldn't even try to blend the two together. So I would just say, get rid of it, get rid of the 808, and just keep that low end synth that you have, because that's all you really need. And then afterwards you have the piano come in, and that was cool too. I liked it, and again, it gives it this 80s slasher feel. That's cool. But for the drums, yeah, like I said, the snare, add some reverb and try to make the drums a little harder. If that means you got to layer the kick, layer the snare, whatever, or just try to add some kind of flair to it, some kind of excitement to the drums. And I keep forgetting to mention that. I can't remember the name, but I gotta look it up. But it was, I think it was just called like an exciter or something. I don't know what the hell it was called. It was this plugin years ago, and it was great because you just add the plugin to your drums or whatever, and it's like boom, you got this exciting drum track. I can't remember what the hell it was, but there's one too from Native Instruments. It's Supercharger. Try a plugin like that, and it'll just give it a nice oomph to your drums, or to anything really, but especially for your drums, if you want to spice them up, try something like that, so yeah. But anyway, just make those little adjustments, and then you'll be good to go. Alright, so next up we got the last beat. It's Skinny Nika 646 with Let It Be Known. Let's check it out.
Esoteric.
All right. Okay, so that was Skinny Nika 646 with Let It Be Known. All right, so for this one, I sound like a broken record, man. The low end, man, you gotta watch that low end. Okay, I mean, it's not just because of the headphones I have on, but it's just, hold on a second. Ow. Okay, I'm wrapped up in mic cable here. I can see it in my meter. The shit's going into the red, so you gotta, I feel like an old man. Like, get out of my way. Get out of my way, young man. Turn that bass down. That's what I feel like. Anyway, but yeah, you gotta turn that bass down, man. You gotta do something with that. But other than that, though, I do like it. Dope drums, dope production. I like the little vocal snippet. Then you had, what I really liked was the little things. Is you had the subtle light strings pan to the left, going really fast. I like that. That sounded nice. And then when you brought in those other strings towards the end of the beat, that were just kind of building up those strings, that was a nice addition. I like that. You know, and I like when people pay attention to stuff like that. Just little things. It makes a big difference in the beat. So you had a nice change up and all that. It was good. It's a nice beat, the way it progresses, the way it flows. But like I said, the only thing really is that bass. The rest was really good. I really like the beat. It's just that bass. You just got to keep control of that shit. But it was a dope beat. I really enjoyed that. So, all right. So that's it from me. I'm Mr. Fade. This is Attack of the Beats. Keep sending your beats in. I'll keep reviewing them. And my favorite beat is, the winner is, drum roll please, Skinny Nicka 646. Let it be known. Let's check it out.
Plus O'Terry.